Hey everybody, if you want to support the show, you can go to shopsketchcraft.com and sometimes you can buy stuff. Sometimes you can't. But that's how you can support the show. You can go there, you can buy something sometime. Helps out. Peace. Let's get on with it. Hey everybody, still got that morning podcast graphic up there, don't I? Also, I started the show wrong. I'm supposed to just start with the morning podcast theme song. I'm not supposed to do the intro thing. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, gee, that started weird. Well, welcome to what happens when Brandon takes all night to do the podcast. Speaking of Brandon, say hi, Brandon.
Hola.
Yeah, 3 hours late. Awesome. It's great. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Do you like coming on? You're not even back for one episode. I'm already fed up with you. You like that?
Pretty much.
Man. But you know, so everyone knows, I got to change this from the SketchCraft morning podcast to the SketchCraft weekly podcast. Now that Brandon's going to jump in here. And the theme song's going to play us out in about 22 minutes. So I got to change that too. But do you know why I haven't changed it this week, Brandon?
Because you've been so busy waiting on me.
And I have been knee-deep in trying to finish this piece of artwork. It's taking forever. It's taking forever. It's this piece of artwork I can't talk about. It's this piece of artwork that doesn't technically exist yet, folks, because I can't actually talk about it. But one could say that I might be working on a piece that's 30 plus characters. Would that be fair, Brandon? About 30 characters.
Uh-huh.
And it just taking its sweet ass time getting done. Oh man. Oh man, oh man, oh man. I'm literally gonna have to get like 4 hours of sleep tonight and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get this moving along. Now that I'm in the coloring phase. Took forever to draw it, and had a client. They had to approve every character, rightfully so. It's the way business works, but it just takes a while, man. Takes a good long friggin' while. Oh my gosh! I've been living in my room. I haven't been able to go for a walk, which I don't like.
Correct.
What else? What else has been going on? All right, so we got a question that came in through the Instagram, folks. By the way, folks, if you have a question you'd like me to answer or talk about on a podcast, go ahead and just leave them in the comments below or send them to me directly through Facebook, Instagram, wherever. But this one comes from Prudence the Lame. He must have, Prudence might have taken a page out of your old handle. Remember, what did you call yourself back in the day? Was it like,
not worth a sketch.
Not worth a sketch.
Mm-hmm.
You missed that name?
Wasn't bad. Wasn't great.
I think you should change Lead Heavy to Mega Potato, but Brandon won't do it. So, Prudence the Lame asks me, hey, got a quick question. Been watching some of your art tips. Hey, thanks, man. Very appreciate that. Talking about construction and anatomy, but I was wondering what I should draw to get good at that stuff. quick note here, buddy. What is this trend now, Brandon, amongst your internet peers that the word good is spelled G-U-D now? When did that happen?
I have not seen that, but I might be too old for that.
Good is still two O's, folks. That's the way it goes. Get good at this stuff. Figure drawing. Should I start? So, what? I'm still trying to figure this out. Should I draw people from imagination? Figure drawing. How do you get better at figure drawing? Should you draw people from imagination? Draw from reference? All right. So they're wondering when I say, so Brandon, when you want to know how to get better at drawing a Mega Man, and I say, well, first you got to study construction.
Mm-hmm.
There's this. I think there's this. I've been getting this off and on for the past couple years, especially since I started harping on it. What is the through line between going from wanting to learn how to draw great figures to learning basic construction to drawing good figures? Get Robert to draw it for you.
Yeah. That's how it goes. That's my way of getting into it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Here's the thing. If you want to draw really cool three-dimensional figures, don't expect that to happen this year.
Right.
Matter of fact, prepare for a 5-year journey, folks. I started, realistically speaking, I started in 1998, 99. Let's say 99. I mean, I was always drawing from comics and imagination, but I sat down and did my first model sheet and went proactively to learn how to do figure construction for animation and whatever else comic books in 1999. And I didn't get my first paid gig until 2005. Now, with all the access to the information that we have on the internet, should it take you that long? Probably not. I'd say it's about 2 to 3 years. You can probably shave off a couple years if you do these things. Right? You guys ready? We're going to write this down. Brandon, do you have a pen ready?
No.
Of course not.
No, not at all.
Always prepared. So, you need to, one, go learn basic one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional drawing. I recommend Scott Robertson's Basics to Perspective. Now, you're going to understand that's going to be a very technical DVD, video series, whatever. It's from the Nomon. It's going to be very technical, and it's going to give you giant headaches behind your eyeballs. Am I correct, Brandon?
Oh, yes.
You've been doing it now for about a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time you do it, do you get a headache?
It definitely is. Yeah.
Go ahead. Explain.
It just varies. Yeah, it varies. If I'm really getting into it and I'm trying to make something elaborate, then yeah, my head will start to hurt. And then when I start to just do some stuff, then my brain goes, hey, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And then I start to get a headache. So it's like the easier stuff, the lines, and it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then once you really get into it, you're like, oh yeah, this sucks.
So the question, why do I find that funny? Because those headaches mean that you're retraining your brain. You're creating new neural, this is my own theory, you're creating new neural pathways in your brain. Your brain doesn't, it just creates different pathways when you learn stuff, right? I'm not a fucking neuroscientist, but I've learned a little bit enough to know this. Like, it creates different pathways in your brain. Things fire, synapses fire, and I get it these days the most when I'm writing. Drawing at this point, for what I do, other than the time in, is not the same level of headache-inducing nonsense that I get from, say, writing. But when I started drawing construction, 1D, 2D, 3D, very technical, not figures at all. Just when I say technical, that's 2 points on a paper, 3 points on a paper, learning how to move the horizon line up and down, create a cube or a three-dimensional sphere, three-dimensional cone, three-dimensional cylinder in a three-dimensional space, learning how to slice that in three-dimensional space, learning how to create one side and then parallel and duplicate that for creating three-dimensional cars, planes, boats, whatever, in a three-dimensional space. That's training your brain to think three-dimensionally. I would recommend doing that and also learning some very basic 3D modeling. Like Nomon, the digital tutors used to have a workshop. You can still get it from 2004. It works whenever, but you can do very basic projects where you follow something from modeling all the way through to animation, but mostly with the modeling, learning how to like do low poly and sub D surfaces so that you start to see three-dimensionally. The minute your brain really starts to see things three-dimensionally, why is that important? Well, you can start to create believable characters. One, two, you'll understand or get to start to understand the concept of shape design. And character design is really a process of taking shapes. They could be realistically proportioned shapes that gets you, you know, whatever rendering you want to put over their shapes. If it's realistic, you 3D anatomy. But if you just go straight to figure drawing, you're going to end up doing everything very flatly in 2D. You're going to learn, because when you go to figure drawing, you learn gesturals and motion lines and action, but it ends up, most people end up just creating 2D art, really flat characters. So I recommend starting three-dimensional for about a year, at least a good year, maybe 24 months of really doing very technical-minded 3D things, and then start to layer in, after the first year, start to layer in figure drawing. And then I wouldn't, drawing from photos is tough. I would recommend a statue. Get yourself a good statue. It doesn't even have to be anatomically like one of these. It doesn't have to be fucking one of those expensive maquettes or nothing. Like those puppets or something. It can just be a statue. But start to draw it three-dimensionally. Rotate it. Find center. Once you learn proper construction, Brandon, you do learn about finding center. How important is finding center? Explain to people why finding center and what that means, finding center. What does that all mean? I want to hear you.
I love when I get to explain.
What have you learned? No, you get to explain it to me now. Go ahead.
With finding center, you can put everything that's you're drawing in perspective. So whether I have a spaceship up in the air or a creature going down into the ground, if I know my center point, I know how everything fits into perspective based on where my center point is.
Yeah, and so when you find your center on something, you know how close the opposite side is to the viewpoint, the horizon line. Like you know where everything is. It's so hard. Sometimes it's hard to describe. And you go, well, Rob, why don't you just make a fucking art tips video? And that's the thing, man. Like, there's no way for me to do this without me spending 20 hours developing a tutorial to do it.
Right.
And I don't personally have that kind of time right now. I don't think I'm going to have that time for another 4 years. You go, Rob, you don't have a free 20 hours? No. I don't have a free 20, and if I had a free 20 hours, my wife is telling me there's shit to do around the house. So I thought I've gone backwards and front ways on this. Like, should I just start a video series? But I can't just free talk this conversation. Like I was thinking, I could do something maybe called like SketchCraft 101, or I could walk through this process. But the problem I have is I don't have the fucking time to do it. Unless I start to do something like a Patreon where I get people to pay me to do it. But even then, two things occur. One, I have to freaking pitch or put out, or was that a spruik or pump up a Patreon. I have to go, Patreon. Like, I don't want it. Guys, I back 3 Patreons a month. Okay? I back the Movie Trivia Schmodown. I back the Cinephiles podcast. And I back Liam Robertson's podcast. I spend $25 a month on Patreon, between $2 $10 and a $5. I know the amount of effort that goes into them making a Patreon. I'm not gonna make $1,000 a month doing a Patreon. I don't care how much fucking effort I put into it. I can't get. We just crossed 14,000 subscribers on this fucking YouTube channel. You know, and it's like, how long did that take?
Years.
You know. I'm never gonna make $1,000 on a Patreon. Now I could do like a Kickstarter and make $1,000 in one shot, but then I have to go and make all those videos, and I'm not. How do I explain this? I can set you along the path, and when you get stuck, come back and ask, and I can help you untie the knot and set you back on the path. But in terms of teaching people, like specifically, do this, do that, do that, I'm not the best teacher for that because I have no passion for it. I mean, Brandon, don't you feel, you don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me, right? You know, when I say, Brandon, do you feel it's not for you to sit there and, you know, agree with everything I have to say?
Right.
But my viewpoint on this is, if you really have no passion to do something, why bother?
Yeah.
It's not like this is going to help me pay off. It's not like I'm doing it for my family or it's going to help pay a bill. I'd only be doing it to help, people along. But then we're talking like, what, 50 views, 100 views? It's the same amount of views as if I just gave you the advice and then I don't have to put 20 hours on. I could spend those 20 hours making a comic. I could spend those 20 hours streaming things and more. Here's the thing. I think there's enough basic info out there that you don't need me covering the basic info. That's how I
Right.
feel about it. I don't know how many people are having higher end level discussions showing you how to do complicated rendering on a piece that, I'm getting paid to do by a publisher. I don't know how many people are doing that. And definitely not covering it all the way through. Like, so I don't know. Like, you have to go and learn basic construction and retrain your brain. Then you need to layer in figure drawing, learn how to render those characters in 3 dimensions, and then you have to learn how to make them move throughout the 3 dimensions. That part comes from storyboarding. It comes from storyboarding. That's the third tier, man. Storyboarding. Like, okay, I want a story where I'm gonna just want a character walking from my room down to the car. Tell that story. Then you have to learn how to move a character in the spaces and become a storyteller. And took me 10 years, to get to the point where I could get paid to do that and it makes all sense to me. And now I'm at the point where I'm just trying to undo, trying to rebuild a career and undo some mistakes with some Kickstarters that some business partners of mine made. And then I can get on with telling stories. But there's no way, like, this is the most disingenuous thing I find on YouTube and every other, like, Skillshare. Those guys are hitting me up to do tutorials on Skillshare. And I'm like, it's disingenuous to say you're going to learn how to do this in 2 hours.
Right.
When you go to I went to AI, an 11-week course, you're not going to learn perspective. You'll get taught the fundamentals of perspective, but you're not going to learn it in 11 weeks.
Right.
I mean, your wife took all those fucking classes. Does she know it? She's just now learning it. And even then, like, not, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
she can't sit down there and draw that stuff.
Right.
I really find to become a professional, if you want to become, if you just want to tell quick comic strip things with funny characters that don't move much, there's plenty of comic strips that do that. If you want to create level artwork that looks like the Battle Chasers, you're going to have to do the work. And unless you're an art genius like Joe Mad was, and at 16 you can do some amazing shit, you're going to have to work at it. And it's going to take about a minimum of 5 to 10 years to get to a professional level, if that's all you're obsessed with. But if you're a person, like, even when you do the construction, you do the figure, you do the storyboarding, you put it all together. If along that way, someone has to constantly be telling you, hey man, aren't you going to go do that figure drawing? Hey man, why are you playing games? You got to go. If someone has to motivate you to do that shit, you're never going to make it.
Right.
That's why I don't need that. Hey guys, I'm working on this piece. It's really hard. Give me all your props. I don't fucking want one person on the internet to motivate me, because I don't need it. And I know it sounds a little like, sometimes people go, man, you get real harsh about this. But I'm like, look, the only person that can motivate you to do this is you.
Right.
How many times have I had to remind you to do shit? And I'm like, he's never going to do this. And then I let it go for 6 months. And I'm like, I haven't done anything, have you? And you're like,
Never.
no. We just had this discussion the other day. It's been, what, like 3 months since you've done anything with the practice?
No, but
2 months. 1 month because of the injury, but definitely a full month you weren't doing it before that.
I wasn't able. Okay. Yep.
Before the injury. Before the injury, Brandon. For a month you weren't doing the practice.
Probably about 2-3 weeks, yeah.
A month. So, like, like that's the thing, folks. You have to become, how do I say this? You have to become, no, you become obsessed. You have to become obsessed. Like, you ever watch a show like MasterChef where a contestant comes on and they ask them, why are you doing this? And sometimes they give these answers like, I just want to do it so my father or my mother, my parents are proud of me because they wanted me to go become a lawyer, but I want to be a chef and I just want them to be proud of me. Like, they never win. Ever. I've watched almost 500, 600 hours of MasterChef Australia, MasterChef America, MasterChef UK, MasterChef India. I've never seen those people win. It's the people that are already obsessed with it. That, like, I just want to win because this is what I've always wanted to do. I'm doing this no matter what, you know what I mean? And this is a place to get a jump start to do it. Like, they are obsessed. If you're just trying to do it so other people are proud of you, like, that's the other component to doing this. That's the secret sauce, Brandon. In earnest terms, that's exeronius. So, modeling clay. It's a secret ingredient to exeronius. So, that's the other part that, like, I don't know how to explain it to people. And when I would go to AI, I'd be in class, I'd see kids that go, well, I thought I was going to learn how to do that thing that he's doing. I'm like, I knew how to do this before I got here. Like, they can't teach you to be obsessed. And just completely, like, I don't know how to describe. I lost jobs for drawing on the job. Cars got stolen. I was a security guard, and cars got stolen because I was busy drawing my own comics. That's how obsessed you got to be. I was drawing in basic training. Basic training, I was drawing and working out storyboard thumbnails in my book. I just couldn't take those beyond a conceptual stage because I didn't understand three-dimensional stuff. So what I had to do was go back and learn the basics, learn how to think in 3D, learn how to move characters in 3D. And I only learned that because I would watch movies like Mononoke and Mononoke and Porco Rosso. The Miyazaki films really felt three-dimensional, even though they were 2D. I felt like the characters were really moving into space, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, and with animation, I get it, you know. And if I just, with comics, if I just take certain frames of those animations and I hold on them, then that tells a story. Like, that's the easiest way I could get my head around it. But now there's just so much information out there on how to do this. If you want to learn perspective, forget the Scott Robertson thing. You can just go learn basic perspective. I want to learn Maya. There's basic tutorials everywhere. There's Gumroad, Skillshares, Udemy's, YouTube videos. There's so much stuff. There was nothing in 1999. There was one site I could find. It was PSG. No, it was sorry. Was it what's his name? Tasai. Unfortunately, he became a paraplegic and he had to draw with his eyes and he passed away. It's heartbreaking. Prometheus, was it Prometheus? No, it's PSG. That's a different site. It's that ours out of the UK, the Swedish, Norwegian. What was that fucking site? I cannot remember. Frank Tsai, TSAI. That was his site. Polytron. On the top of my head, folks, I'm not even looking around. I think it was Polytron was what it was called. And he would cover basics on like Photoshop and things like that. And he was doing concept art and games and some comics and stuff. It's tragic what happened to him. But that was the only guy. And then eventually you got things like sketchboard sessions and then DeviantArt and then YouTube. And now you got everything out there. So that's my 23-minute discussion. Now what's going to happen, folks, is in a minute, the music's going to start to play. And I'm just going to let it run through. So this is going to be a weird cast. And then Brandon gets to bring up his topic. But Brandon, I just rambled on for 22 minutes about this. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's just... There's the music. Brandon, I want you to think about this for a second. While the music's playing. You ready?
Yeah.
I want you to think about everything I just said, and then tell me, as someone who's learning this from the beginning, what you think about all of it from beginning to end. I want you to be very specific. Your generalizations are confusing. Okay?
Yeah.
I gotta fix this. It's good music, though. I paid for this music, you know that?
I can't hear it.
I know, but I can. It's good. Shinabala. Musician Shinabala. Good stuff. It's called Game and Chill. I put a link to his stuff below if you guys want to check it out. But he wrote it for Game Cave. But we're not going to end this now. Okay, Brandon. You thought about it. It's been a couple minutes.
Yes. Basically, what I took from all that is that it's going to take a good 1 to 5 years to get to a point where you can do any kind of well designed art and feel good about it. And there's tons of different websites and tutorials that you could learn online to maybe speed that up if you are really have the conviction to do it. If you don't, if you're just doing it because you want to draw superheroes at a Comic-Con and you want a table, it's not going to work. But if you want a job doing some kind of artistic thing, you really got to push it. And you have to learn what your limits are and what you can get better at and just keep pushing as far as you can. But if you just half-ass it, like I've done for a lot of years, you're not going to get very far.
More to the point, it's going to take a while, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take a long-ass while. And that's the bigger issue. Hold on, I'm trying to put up a... I don't feel like recording me right now, folks, so I'm just going to put up the Shop SketchCraft slogan so we can get past this. All right.
That I do have a topic kind of like that.
Now, Brandon, you get to bring something up. Your turn.
Okay, well, that kind of goes into one of the topics I had. That is basically sometimes, too, after you've done stuff for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, sometimes you need to change art gears for a purpose that maybe you didn't intend to do, but it might be better suited for you. Like Rob has me do different things all the time. Sometimes he has me learn to do all his YouTube stuff. Sometimes he has me learning After Effects. Sometimes he'll have me learn new art styles or new programs because sometimes, you know, me drawing freehand isn't working out or it's slow and I don't have any commissions. So take that time to learn a different art trade or things that'll benefit myself and him in the future. So, you know, I always thought growing up, like most people probably listen to this, oh, I'm going to be a comic book artist. And then you get older and you find out that it's really not that lucrative. It's not that great. And it's stressful and it's shitty and not a lot of people make it. And it's not because of, sometimes it's not because of talent. As far as your style, sometimes you just don't know the basics. You don't know how to tell a story. You don't know how to lay things out. But that doesn't mean you can't go into different ventures. You can go into designs for video games. You can go into different ZBrush stuff. I mean, there's all kind of different things that you may end up doing later on as you get older as an artist that you may have thought you're not going to do. Like, it just happens that way. And so I think that you have to understand that sometimes you're just going to have to switch gears or, you know, not give up, but focus on things that you do good and get busy on that. Like if you're not a good illustrator, maybe you're a good 3D artist. If you're not good at 3D modeling, maybe you're good at ZBrush clay making. I mean, that's about it. That's my rant to that.
Sort of. I mean, I think what Brandon's also, what I could add to it is, as an artist, I always got two things going. One, I know I can earn a living with or make money fast that I can do now, and one that is going to take time. So with coloring and with painting, that was just going to take time. I did not intend to color my own art. I've always had a thing for color, and I appreciate it. But I became a colorist of my own art because, one, I got real tired of trying to motivate colorists to spend the time on the details that I was adding to my own art. And two, I could not get a decent rate to pay a colorist for enough anyhow. Like indie comics it started at $3.50 a page, and by the time, within a couple years, it went down to $100 a page in indie comics. You know, and I'm like, for $100 a page, I don't even know why the fuck I'm doing this. You know, let alone asking someone else to come on board. And then with cover art, I could get more and get back to that $350, $400. But then I'm like, well, then I'm making like $150, and I could never get a great colorist like a Ulamos or something. I could always just find these cats that would fucking argue with me about, you know, putting the time in. So I'm like, look, if they're gonna fuck up the colors, I'd rather be the guy to fuck up the colors. So, you know what I mean? I could at least learn this, and then I had to learn lighting and bounce lighting. But while I was doing that, I had day jobs doing graphic design in t-shirts or in magazines. You know, that earned me $40,000, $50,000 a year until, you know, the recession hit. And then I had to, like, you know, take a hit down to $30,000 or $25,000 a year, but make it up with doing commissions. And then my coloring got up to a point where I could get, see folks, the world is going to constantly change. And you're going to get older in it. All right? And no matter what age you are now, You're going to get to an age where, you know, things switch on you. And unless you're incredibly lucky, you're going to have to roll with the punches too.
Yep.
And a lot of these artists that you go, well, this guy made it, and that girl made it, and she did this, and he did that. Yeah, they were the lucky ones. Like, it worked out for them. The rest of the people you don't see are all constantly adjusting. They're constantly adjusting. Maybe you find out you don't like drawing comics. I found out I don't enjoy drawing high-end comics because of the amount of time that it takes to render out every character and get approval on pages. I don't enjoy doing it. I had 2 or 3 books, including almost an entirely completed graphic novel, shelved just because of legal nonsense and bickering between the writers and the publishers and notes on how I drew a script. And I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I quit drawing sequential art because I didn't feel like dealing with it.
Right.
There's a kid I know, Joey Velasquez. He's a really good artist. He's doing stuff for Aspen now, and I've known him since he was 16 years old. And I used to tell him these stories. He goes, well, those won't happen to me. I'm like, you're young, kid. You know, for like on stuff. You know what I mean? All right. Well, just, you've been successful in life so far, you think. Just wait. Someday you're going to get some strife. I'm not saying it's going to happen to everyone, but chances are pretty good. And then there came a point where he had some tough times, and he's like, dude, you know, really appreciate you for trying to help me, you know, at that point. You know, how to deal with it. And look, he's rolling with it, and he's doing quite well. He's a productive kid, you know. And I think that sometimes there's a difference between saying I'm not good enough and I don't want to do it, or I can get this set of talent later. You know,
Right.
I can develop these skill sets through time. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, or it was a year and a quarter ago. I did a little engine demo with a buddy of mine with the Jolly Dagger to set up like a Star Fox, kind of like start level with the Jolly Dagger. He got it all working in Unreal. And then he's like, hey man, we can do a good tech demo on this if you can just model the characters, all the art, and get the texture mapping done. And I told him, I ain't modeling shit. But, you know, your wife had just started helping out. And I'm like, I can teach her how to do it. It's going to take 2 to 3 years. And he was like, okay, well, you know, Rob's just saying that. Well, a year and a half later, you know, we had just talked, he and the same guy talked the other day at E3. And he's like, dude, I thought you were joking, but it really is like it's getting done, you know, but it's going to take 2 to 3 years.
Right.
You know, because at this stage, I've been at the stage your wife is at with modeling. I've been at the stage you're at with art, you know, and I know the longest form possible, and I know what I can show you in terms of like how to save time, but I can't compress 5 years of knowledge into 1 year. I can probably get you there in about 2 to 3 years if you do the things I tell you to do. That being said, if you're trying to earn that's the hardest thing these days is like, how do you earn a side thing on top of learning? You probably can't. You're going to have a day job and then come back and learn what you want to do. But I rotate you around different projects because keeping you on one project for too long doesn't seem to make you better at it. Just seems you just continue to like, I got to get you out of it, get you into something else, and then bring you back so you can see it with fresh eyes. It's kind of like how I think about it. You ever do that? You ever come back, you go, oh, now I see what Rob was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't see it when you were in it.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Can't see the Matrix when you're in the Matrix.
Yeah. So I put you on something that's like doing thumbnails or doing some Illustrator work or something different. And then when you come back to the art, you go, oh, damn. Sometimes I think the brain needs time to recenter too. I've always had my biggest breakthroughs when sometimes you don't see me paint like Saucy's for 6 months. And then I come back and they look better. It's because I need time away from that for a bit.
Right.
I don't think doing more of the same thing repeatedly produces a better result. I think you get to a point where you've hit your limit and you need to stop for a little bit, go do something else, and then come back. That's what I think. You know? What else you got? Is that it?
No, I got 2 other topics, whether you like them or not. Okay. One was, I'll just say it, revisiting old projects. And I want to know, from your point of view, if it's a good or bad idea, and I'll give you examples. Like Dark Knight Returns 2 and 3, you know, the comic book series that tried to make 2 runs. And then recently, I saw on Twitter that Zombieland 2 is going to be made. And so it started made me think, like, do you ever revisit some of your older projects that you thought were a good idea or you gave up on? Or if they're in the past, they're in the past and they were good then?
What are you asking me? You're asking me if I
Okay.
revisit old projects that I gave up on to see if they're still good?
Yeah, like, do you ever, like, if you had an old project, right? Like an old book you did
Like
or
Game
an old,
Cave?
no, older than that. Let's say the monsters thing you did, right? Okay.
Monstroids?
Okay, the Monstroids, okay? Let's say they wanted to make another one, okay? Would you want to revisit that and be a
No.
part of it again?
No,
Or do
but
you
I
just,
do get that. Kevin asks me at least every other year. And I tell him I would if there's a $50,000 a year paycheck involved, and I'm not being paid per page. I'm being paid as a salary worker.
right.
And
Do
then
you
I'll go.
like do you like when other, like, do you like that they went back to the Dark Knight Returns series, even though, you know, it was Andy Kubert and all them?
Oh, you mean that they made
But
the Dark Knight 3?
yeah.
Uh, and look, that's a different situation. It's not like Frank Miller went back to the Dark Knight and then tried to redraw it or
Hmm.
do something else with it. I mean, he made the Dark Knight Strikes Back, and I didn't like that for a multitude of reasons. One, it just was colored like dog shit, and I love Lynn Varley's work, but those are the worst computer colors ever put to a mainstream book in the history of mankind. And so, I've been following digital coloring since Digital Justice. Batman Digital Justice was released in '89. Steve Olaf's colors on the Akira series through Epic. Then when he took over Legends of the Dark Knight with the computer coloring, I followed Steve Olaf, his work, because I could tell the difference. I didn't know what was being done, but I knew the colors were different. And then when he went, took over Spawn, and then all the coloring revolutions that happened there with Top Cow using Photoshop. Brian Haberlin coming in there, and then Spawn, and Liquidology comes out of that, right? You get Christian Lichtner and Battle Chasers, but then you end up with the Dark Knight, which was hand painted, and then the Dark Knight Strikes Back, which is just it's like a LSD acid trip through nonsense land that I can't
Right.
stand. The Dark Knight 3 is a whole nother thing. I think it looks too Photoshoppy. I think that book should have either had the ink wash renderings of Sean Gordon Murphy or like Ray Capullo's artwork mixed with like hand painted. I think it should be at the same level of hand rendering that The Dark Knight and Batman Year One was. I Photoshop glows ain't cutting it in the Dark Knight land for me,
Right.
bro.
I guess I should have said revisiting as far as coloring and recoloring
Well, that's
art,
completely
maybe.
different than Zombieland 2 or
Right.
The Dark Knight. What
Right.
you're talking about is like when they re-release X-Men #1 from Jim Lee and Scott Lobdell and they recolor it.
Yeah, I think I was mixing both. Both were on my mind. The fact of, because we've talked about it, going over old art, and also in my mind too when they announced Zombieland 2 is getting made, I was like, wow, it's been like, I don't know how many years, probably 5, 6, I don't know, it's been a while. And I'm like, do people still care about that universe? Do they want to go back to it?
Here's the
No.
thing with any movie, bro. When people say would anyone care, that's in the marketing. The marketing will make you care to go see it opening weekend, and if a movie's good or not, that's how long it'll last on the shelf. Or what they call legs, whether a film has legs or not. So you could have a movie that's a strong opening weekend like a Transformers because the marketing did its job, but no one came back.
Right.
Or you could have a movie that opens up really weak and then goes on for a while. Like Avatar only had a $70 million opening weekend. And it somehow
Yeah.
made $3 billion fucking dollars at the box office. You know what I mean? So it's like, $1 billion plus here, you know? And people can say whatever they want, about, well, I think the movie sucked. How did a movie that opened up to 70 million end up making $3.3 billion dollars? Some nonsense, Well,
Right.
why? Was it on fucking accident? So if they want to make a Zombieland 2, I'm not the one putting up the money for that. So, hey, whether I'll go
Right.
to the theater to see it depends on how they market it. Like, I like the first Kingsman movie. That trailer they made for the sequel with the Frank Sinatra, it's just one of the most boring trailers ever made in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
I mean, I just sat there going like, yawn fest, bro. I don't care.
Yeah.
Same with the trailer for Jurassic World 2. Judy, doo-doo-doo. They kept doing that weird audio call. Cha cha cha. Doo-doo. Like I'm like I don't care. Whatever kind of drama they're trying to play up, don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But then I saw the trailer for Teen Titans Go, a movie I could care less for. Couldn't stop laughing. You know?
Right.
I don't watch the cartoon. I'm not gonna say I'm not a fan of the cartoon. I don't watch the cartoon.
I watch it.
I don't watch it. I saw one episode ever. I thought it was funny where all the Robins were there apparently.
Yeah.
Like it was all the different Robins.
Yeah.
I saw that when my wife and I were looking for different apartments once, and it just happened to play on the TV while we were waiting to get back some, what do you call that? You know, where you get approved. And so I'm watching, I'm like, this is funny. But I never revisited the cartoon. But that trailer got me like, now I want to see that. Now, whether you could say, does anyone care? Look, guys, you can't. Does anyone care whether I make a book or not? No. It's for me to put it out there and make it good enough and to put it out there in front of people so they want to care when they see it. Does that make sense to you, Brandon?
Yep.
If only if we start saying, well, people's pre-recollection, what's the word I'm thinking? Were they pre-recognition, pre-understanding of a property dictates whether they see something or not, that means we can't create anything new, right? We can only make things based off things you already know. So, but in terms of do I like to revisit things that I created in the past and want to do more with them? Unless I created it, the answer is no. I'm not revisiting anything a publisher hands me unless there's a decent paycheck in it because it's not worth the trouble. I mean, it's just, quite frankly, it's just not. It's not worth the trouble. That's why I got into cover art. I mean, because once I'm done, I move on. Believe me, I got offered to do some pretty decent books last year, and when I turned them down, they got mad. They got mad, Brandon. They don't talk to me no more, some of those publishers,
Yeah.
What else you got? We got one more. Let's go.
You already covered it in some of your stuff. I was talking, my other topic was landing a job that isn't always the one you wanted, but might be the best at it and be diverse, which you already went over that, about being diverse with the coloring and the inking and everything else. So
here's the thing. If you want to draw comics, don't be a diverse artist. Go practice drawing comics. But if you want to pay your bills tomorrow, you better start having some diversity. Does that make sense?
Right.
There's no one answer to it. You're going to be doing two things for the rest of your life unless you become very successful at the one thing. And the odds of that happening to you are minimal.
Me or everyone? I'm
just the figurative you. I'm the only one who can get money out of you. So,
yes.
And then you applying the fucking effort,
Right.
So we're working on that. But I mean, I never intended to be a graphic designer. I don't even consider myself to be one. I have no love for it. Turns out that I have a great understanding of pop culture, and so like that combined with being able to use Photoshop and manipulate graphics puts me in a pretty good position to do things. Now, am I that guy sitting around trying to fudge around UX and I get obsessed with vector points and making everything clean and minimal? No. That's not the kind of shit I do. I've done t-shirts for God knows how long. To this day, I still do them on the side,
Right.
I'll be honest. There are moments I like it, but they will gain me no love. Zero love. I show you a t-shirt, no one's going to care. There's no magic to t-shirts for people because everyone can make one now, right?
Right.
So the magic I get from people, the love I get from fans are when I do things like with color pencil that they can't do. Or I draw some crazy shit that they couldn't do. But if I took something and pared it down to a basic t-shirt for Target, you'd go, oh, I could do that. You couldn't. You think you can because it looks pretty simple. But Brandon, you sat in a room before and got paid to do that t-shirt work. How'd that go for you?
It sucked. It was not fun, and it wasn't easy.
It looks easy because everyone can make a t-shirt, right?
Right, but there's a lot more that goes into it than people don't understand.
Yeah, a lot more that goes into it. And you have to be able to somehow survive the initial 2 to 3 years and not get fired to learn how to do it right.
I didn't get fired. I quit.
1 week. 1 week.
Yeah.
1 week. It's for the best.
Longest week ever.
It was for the best. And then, you know, folks, sometimes when you just do what you love, you'll get opportunities you never thought you would have had. And that's how I worked on Spyro. I just been posting retro game stuff for so long now that my stuff came across the desk of people I never submitted art to. And if I had tried submitting art to these studios, I guarantee you I never would have got in. You know, so it's just like
a Game Informer, you know?
yeah, like who am I supposed to send art to a Game Informer to draw a cover? Like most of the time with covers, they don't pick people to draw them. They have a deal to publicize to promote something for a game, you know, and that goes to that game. So the studio generally produces the cover. For a guy to sit down and single-handedly draw and color a whole piece is just not that common, especially in Game Informer. Only a few people have ever done it. So I'm one of them. Bengal did his own stuff. Joe Mad drew it, but he didn't color it. So
probably Liquid or something did.
No, it was at what was it, that studio they were at? Was it Virgil or whatever it was? Vigil Studios at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, hey, you know, he doesn't color his work. I don't, you know, I love that Darksiders 2 cover was at the E3 2011. I want to say was it 2010 or 2011, but that was where that one came out. So I was like, next time I went to E3, I had a Game Informer cover. See what can happen to you folks? I brought it with me just so I had it. I was like my own little personal like ha ha ha.
Right.
But yeah, where are we at here? We're almost at an hour. What else we got? We got anything else, Brandon? Anything you want to bring up?
Me.
Anything you want to fucking complain about? What do we got in the chat room? Anyone talking?
Just Armando.
Just Armando. Good for him.
Yeah, Armando. Man, your fingers got to hurt from typing so much, Armando.
What's he bringing?
It's a lot to everything, anything and everything.
Oh, let's bring up some stuff. Let's read some Armando tweets. Let's go for it.
Doesn't Game Informer have internal artists who draw the covers?
No. No magazine has an internal artist. I might have been the last at Play Magazine. And Dave, when I pitched it to him, he was like, we haven't had an internal artist since Terry Wolfinger did the covers to GameFan. And nobody has an internal artist at a magazine anymore.
Psychotech says he just likes to listen. He doesn't need to chime in.
That's fine.
And Shadow Kid says Mega Potato. That's right. I'm a hot tater. Hot. I'm a broken tater is what I am. I'm still
Gimp tater.
I'm still for the people who ask, just so they know. I had surgery on my bicep. I had to get a tissue graft, and it takes a very, very long time to heal before you stop having pain. And I haven't even started rehab yet. I can't yet for another week or two until I see my surgeon again, and then I have to start rehab for a while. So I can draw digitally because there's no pressure and you don't have to apply so much. But I'm going to be doing some other stuff behind the scenes, and you know, still making art, still doing things, but it's taking a lot out of me.
Aren't you glad that we don't have national health care, so now you're stuck with a $6,000 bill?
I can't wait to start paying that $6,000 bill.
Where's that going to come from?
I have no idea. Probably making money for SketchCraft. That dollar you owe
I'm not paying you $1.
Okay, let's see. Crusher says, I like to listen and learn from Rob. Psycho says, but for Rob's inquiry on get good question. Okay.
Oh yeah, the get good.
It's an intentional misspelling of the phrase "get good." Is an expression used to heckle inexperienced players or newbies in online video games.
Yeah, but asking me a question on how to get good doesn't quite help. Now it's just shorthand for poor spelling.
James is listening while he's working, and Crusher finally lets me know that he received the Leonardo. Thanks, Crusher. It's only been like 2 months. I think I mailed that out. Oh man. And then Armando, you want me to read Armando's quick thoughts, Rob? Do you feel that pixel art artists don't have enough recognition as traditional artists do when it comes to recognizing a single artist's work? You know what I mean? ? Since retro art ... is mostly associated with retro consoles and nothing else. Huh. How do you feel about pixel art, Rob?
I love pixel art.
I do too.
Look, no artists get enough credit. here's the thing. Tell how many artists at the end of the credits of the Avengers can you remember? You know,
One.
not many. And the thing with pixels, like with anything else, where you don't get to show your hand. How do I say that?
You don't get to show your actual drawing skills of making things. People think you're just tracing.
Right. Pixel art is a very technical. It's almost like origami. Can you tell an
Right.
origami artist once they put together their origami? Like unless they design some crazy unique things, the actual forming it together takes a lot of talent. But can you recognize? No. Maybe like constructing sushi. Can you recognize individual chefs? No. But if they invent, then yeah. Like the style for Owlboy, I think is distinctly Owlboy.
Oh
The
yeah.
style for remember Scott Pilgrim versus the World on the PS3.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's a look, right?
Hmm.
Iconoclast. Was it Joaquin? Johan? I can't remember his fucking name. That guy. That's a unique look. So it can be developed, you know. But it comes through the creation of that specific game and not random pinups.
Right.
So there's nothing you can do about that. That's just inherent. Like more people recognize my art once I started, once I'm drawing from my own, what have you. But if you saw my graphic design, you'd never know it was me.
Right.
Right, Brandon? I've shown you T-shirts I've worked on. Would you think I did that?
We've been at Comic Cons and you've seen somebody wearing a shirt and you're like, I designed that, and the people are like, I got it from Walmart, and you're like, yeah, I designed it for Walmart. And they're like, oh, you? And they look at your booth and they're like,
I don't see that. I'm like, yeah, they didn't
yeah.
ask me to make this,
Right.
So, but look, artists never get enough recognition. So, I put it this way: on a comic book, these days everyone talks about the writer. They never mention the artist. Go figure.
Right.
Last I checked, you don't have a comic book without the pictures. I don't see what's so hard about this argument. You're saying the writing's not important? I'm saying it's not important as the pictures. Otherwise, go write a fucking book. Right? Right.
Yep.
That's like saying that the movies don't really need the pictures. Like, no, that's kind of inherent in the movie. So otherwise, you have an audio novel, I guess. I don't know. So what else we got? That it? We got we got up to 7 minutes here.
No, we don't.
Nothing else? You saw Ant-Man? You like it?
Yep. Oh, I did. I liked it.
Yeah, it
It was
all right.
fun. I mean, it was. It is what it is. It's like
It is.
There's
There's the quote on the back of the box. Mega potatoes.
It was like
it
it
is
was like
what
the Incredibles 2. It was entertaining. It was great. There's no real dire sense of danger, but it was enough suspense and action where I was like, all right, and it was fun. So I mean, I left the theater happy. I give it an 8 out of 10, solid movie. It wasn't meant to be like Avengers Infinity War, so it was his own fun small adventure.
I
No
would
pun
agree.
intended.
I would only say using the same story that if they're gonna have that character that goes, they probably should have made her Shield's version of the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then have her team up with Lang, a guy who, is almost like what do I want to describe him like? Mark Bernard on the new Fat Man on Batman was saying he's kind of like Jack Burton. He's not really the hero. Like she could have been the hero, and he could have been like, or even the Wasp was kind of like that. Like to me, it's definitely in the family film. But if Peyton Reed is going to end up doing a Fantastic Four film someday, they need to sit down with some smarter writing. So
It could have been like when you say stuff like that. I don't know, when you're thinking of analogies. I was thinking of like Inspector Gadget, where like the kid is the actual crime fighter, and he's just kind of goofy there in the way.
But that's what the Wasp was supposed to be. So then you present the Ghost. I just think there's a lot of ideas that you put on a board, and they all kind of got thrown in the movie, but they don't really build to a climax of any sort. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's some fun themes in there with the father and the daughter.
Spoilers, everyone.
Would have been great to see the whole movie take place in his house while he's on house arrest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just in the house with. I still don't think they've done enough with the shrinking technology. Like shrinking
Right.
and getting bigger. Like really constructing some real good, interesting set pieces with that. So, but it was a fun movie, and the end credits. I just was waiting because I knew it was coming. I already knew about it because my friend spoiled it for me. asshole. But I sat there waiting for it, and I was like, "That was great, huh?" That was fun. Yeah, my wife was all happy. I'm like, "Oh, credits are coming up." She's like, "All right, here we go." And then it happened, and she was like, "No!" Some kid cried in the theater. It's the best. It was the best. So that was worth the price of admission. Me personally, I've been waiting all year for Mission Impossible, and I got a good feeling about this one. So.
Yeah.
So can't wait. All right, everybody. So we're going to be doing these podcasts weekly again. These audio ones. Friday nights. 7 o'clock. What? 8 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. What are you on?
Yeah, well, if you're going 8 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock my time.
What's your time?
Mountain Standard.
Mountain Standard. I'm on Mountain Daylight.
Whatever. Arizona. We don't switch time, so I don't need to even know what those things are called because we stay normal time. Like you guys out there in forever.
Hey, look, I'm not a fan of time zones, so yeah. Anyhow, we'll be doing that regularly, and I got to get these graphics fixed. But folks, I'm stuck on this piece, so if you're wondering where's the Sonic Color pencils, where's the Darksiders, nothing's getting done until this piece I'm working on is done. So that's it. That's the way it works. So more next week. Be back soon. Brandon, is there anything would you like to mention? ShopSketchCraft.com?
Oh yeah, you guys should go to Scotch. I can't even say it. You guys.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, that's it, everybody. Let's get out of here. When I hit the exit button. Marble Mouth.
Everyone, go shop at
Shop. Later.